Yes, there are some electric vehicle chargers that can charge 2 EVs at the same time, and we have one here today. I have a Grizzl-E DUO, which is a 40 amp EV charger that can charge 2 electric vehicles at the same time. We're going to give this guy our full review today, and you're not going to want to miss this one. But first, please don't forget, if you haven't already, click that subscribe button, and while you're at it, give us a like on this video. Likes are important because it helps YouTube recommend my videos to other people on YouTube, and that way more people can bask in my awesomeness. This video is powered by Qmerit, North America's leading provider of installation services for electric vehicle charging, home energy storage, and other electrification technologies. See how Qmerit is making the energy transition easy for home and business owners by following the link in the description of this video. Before we jump into the unboxing and how to install the Grizzl-E DUO, first let's take a look at the key features of this unit. All right, so let's take a look at the Grizzl-E DUO's key features. It can charge 2 EVs at once. That's a pretty neat feature. You can have one 50 amp feed go into your garage and charge 2 electric vehicles with this one unit at the same time. Dimension-wise, it's 6.25 inches wide, 6.5 inches deep, and 10.25 inches tall. Now, the big figure to look at there is the 6.5 inches deep. It's a thick unit. The other Grizzl-Es, the Classic and the Grizzl-E Smart, both have the same height and width, but the depth is only like 3.25 inches. It's pretty much half the thickness of the Grizzl-E DUO. It's a thick, chunky unit. It can deliver 40 amps, that's 9.6 kilowatts, when it's connected to one vehicle. When it's connected to 2 vehicles, it splits the power. Each vehicle will get 20 amps if they're both calling for that. However, the most any one vehicle can get is 32 amps if there are 2 vehicles plugged in at the same time, and we'll go into that a little bit more in depth later. It has a NEMA 1450 or NEMA 650 plug configuration. You order these with plugs. You can hardwire it if you want to. You have to have your electrician open it up, remove the plug, and hardwire it. We do recommend hardwiring here at State of Charge. It has 2 24-foot cables, so the cables are nice and long. It uses the J1772 connector, so it'll charge any electric vehicle in North America, including Teslas, with the adapter that comes with Teslas. It has 2 remote connector holsters. They're the easy EV plugs that United Charger calls them. They're good remote connector holsters. It has a cast aluminum NEMA 4 enclosure, really tough and thick. The operated temperature is rated for negative 22 degrees Fahrenheit to 122 degrees Fahrenheit. That's negative 30 Celsius to 50 Celsius. It is UL listed, and it comes with a 3-year factory warranty. Okay, so now let's jump to our unboxing and see what comes with the Grizzl-E DUO. Okay, let's take a look at what we have here. We have the body of the unit, the 2 J1772 connectors, both attached to 24-foot long cables. Those nice long cables. On the top over here, we have 2 remote connector holsters. You can mount these wherever you want. And inside the plastic, United Chargers includes 4 screws and 4 drywall anchors for each one. Over here, we have the hardware to mount it on the wall. This is actually 2 pieces. One piece bolts to the wall. The other piece bolts to the back of the unit, which we'll go into next. These are the 4 bolts that bolt the bracket to the back of the unit. These 2 screws here are the screws that are provided to screw the other side of this mounting hardware to the wall, but you could use whatever screws you want. And then we have this security pin here that adds an extra level of security so it doesn't fall off the wall. This is a heavy unit, so it's good that it has this. It also provides quick release, so you could remove the unit from the wall quickly if you need to. And finally, we have this piece of paper here, which is really just an advertisement. The unit does not come with a user's guide or installation manual. Instead, you have to scan the QR code that you see here on this sheet and download the installation manual and user's guide. The Grizzl-E Duo, like the Grizzl-E Classic and Grizzl-E Smart, have adjustable power settings. You have to do that inside the unit through dip switches. In order to do so, you have to remove these 4 screws. You need a number 4 Allen wrench to do that. You can open it up and then adjust the power on the inside. So let's take a look and see how you do that. Okay, so as you can see inside the unit, the 4 dip switches are up here in the upper left-hand corner. And you can adjust it between the 40 amps. It comes out of the factory set to deliver 40 amps. And you can lower that down to 32 amps, 24 amps, or 16 amps by adjusting these 4 dip switches. Now, the instructions on how to position the dip switches can be found in the user's guide that you have to use that QR code and scan and download, but it's all in there and it shows you how to do that. Now, if you do this, if you open up the case and you adjust this, that's going to limit the maximum power that it will deliver at any one time. Make sure, number one, that it has a little gasket here along the inside of this case. It's really important that that's pressed back into place so that it seats well when you close it back up, because that's for your weatherproof rating, especially if this is located outside and it's going to be exposed to the elements. And number 2, these bolts here are torqued to a specific amount of torque. And you really want to bring it back to how tight it was, the manufacturer's spec. That can also be found in the user's guide. You need a specific torque wrench for that. You can't just do it with a regular Allen wrench like this. But particularly if this is going to be outside, it's going to be exposed to the elements, you'll lose that NEMA 4 rating if these aren't torqued to just the right torque specification. So make sure you do that correctly if you are going to open this up and derate the unit. Most people won't have to do this. They'll keep it delivering 40 amps because they'll have it on a 50 amp or greater circuit. But if you can't deliver 50 amps, if your house doesn't have that ability and you need to derate the unit, or for any reason you just decided you don't want it to deliver the full amount of power, and you open this up, make sure that the gasket is seated properly and that you also torque these bolts to the right specification. All right, well, it's time for the Duo's cable deep freeze test. I put the Duo in this commercial freezer 24 hours ago. This is a very cold commercial freezer. It gets colder than what normal freezers do. This gets way below 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's see exactly how cold it is in there right now. Negative 15.5 degrees Fahrenheit. So yeah, it's pretty cold in there, and the Duo is frozen solid. What we're gonna do now is take it out. I'm going to hang it on the wall. I'm going to see how bendable the cable is. This is to simulate how the cable would act in very cold weather climates. Let's say you're charging the car outside overnight in the winter and you need to unplug it. What you want is the cable to be nice and bendable so you can roll it back up on your connector holster. And even when you're plugging the car in, when you grab the connector, you don't want the whole cable to just pull off like an accordion and not be bendable. One thing I will point out is the Grizzl-E's cable, this is for all Grizzl-E's, the Classic, the Grizzl-E Smart, and the Duo. Looks like they use the same cable. It's a really thick cable. I measured it more than 21 millimeters, and that's one of the thickest cables on any electric vehicle charging equipment that we've had here. It's not necessarily that the wires are thicker inside. I think it's the jacket that goes around it. It's a really thick jacket, and you know, there's advantages to that. It might be more durable if it gets run over all the time. But the negative side is the thicker the cables are, usually the more unruly they are. They're heavy, they're hard to use on an everyday basis. I'm not in love with the Grizzl-E's cable, none of them. I think they're well made and I think they'll last long, but I don't really hear any problems with any of the thinner cables having problems not lasting long, being run over, for instance. The Tesla wall connector, for instance, has a really thin cable, and that's a 48 amp charger. So it can actually deliver more power than the Grizzl-E can. And the cable's a little more than 14 millimeters thick. So that's a big difference between 21 millimeters and 14 millimeters. And then take a look at the Ford Charge Station Pro that I have on the wall over there. That can deliver 80 amps. And the cable's only 20 millimeters thick. So it has a thinner cable than what the Grizzl-E does. So that makes daily usability, in my opinion, a little bit more difficult because the cable's heavy and you've got to, you know, carry it back and forth to the connector holster. It may last longer. I'm not really seeing that in the field. The thinner cables seem to do just as well. This seems like it's more set up for commercial use where it's really going to get beat up than someone's house. Well, in any event, let's pull it out of the freezer now and we'll see just how well it performs now that it's frozen solid. That's going to be hard because this is a really heavy unit and there's two cables. So I'm going to probably just be dragging the cables on the ground. Damn, this thing's heavy. Oh. Oh. Okay, so yeah. So you can see this thing is frozen solid. The plug here doesn't even really want to bend at all, but you wouldn't have to worry about that. That would be plugged in, it would be frozen in place. These are the guys we want to really see how they act. All right, let me cut the cables free. So you can see I rolled them up in tight loops, and then now I see how well they will come out and work with. All right, so it's frozen pretty stiff. That's not great. You know, I can work with it. It's not as bad as some of the cables we tested, but this is pretty stiff. See how it's coiled up like that? You really don't want it to remain coiled up like this. You want the cable to kind of just be floppy. You don't want it to like stand up like that. It's not really good. This isn't going to get a good rating in the ChargerRater as far as the cable pliability goes in cold weather. It's workable. It wouldn't prevent you from plugging in and unplugging your car, but I think, you know, United Chargers could probably source a better cable for cold weather performance. The outer jacket here, although it feels nice and rubberized, usually the jackets that feel more plasticky are the ones that are frozen. I think part of it is that it's such a thick outer jacket that that's preventing it from bending. Like this is, I mean, it's been out a while now, and as you could see, like, look, I'll try to put it up on here. You see, it really doesn't want to comply, you know? So that's not really good cold weather cable performance for the Grizzl-E DUO's cable. It's not so bad that I would say, you know, I wouldn't recommend this for cold weather, but as I said, United Chargers could do a better job. They could get a better cable for cold weather temperatures. All right, so since we have the connector nice and frozen, and we like to do our cold weather cable connector drop test. So I'm going to do this with this one right now. We drop it 5 times from about chest or waist high, and we see how well the connector holds up. Now this is pretty cold. You can see there's actually frost on it. So let's see. All right, 5 drops. Everything seems to be working. All right, nothing's cracked. The tab here is functioning fine, so it passes the connector drop test. All right, so we have the Duo all installed and on the wall. Let's talk a little bit about why you would want an EV charger with 2 cables. Well, there's a few reasons. Well, the most obvious reason is, well, you've got 2 EVs. Well, you know, you could get two chargers, or you can just have one charger and then share the plug between the two EVs. That's going to work for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for everybody. And you might come home from work and your spouse is plugged in and charging, and you don't know if they need more range the next day, if you can unplug her and plug yours in, or vice versa. So it's not the perfect situation sharing a charger. A lot of people make it work, but it's actually better to be able to plug in both vehicles. And you may not have the electric capacity in your house to add two dedicated, say 50 amp circuits. And what this allows you to do is use one circuit to charge two EVs. Now the way the Duo works is, as I said, it's a 40 amp unit. That means it can deliver 9.6 kilowatt to the vehicle. If you plug in one car, that car is going to get the full 40 amps. It'll charge it up to 9.6 kilowatt if the vehicle can take that much power. But when you plug in the second vehicle, the most either vehicle can get is 32 amps. It can't deliver, say, 35 amps to one vehicle and then 5 amps to the other. And here's another thing that's interesting. If the other vehicle, the second vehicle finishes charging, it shuts off. The first vehicle that's still charging can still only get 32 amps. It won't then jump up to 40 amps. The only way the Duo delivers 40 amps to one of the vehicles is if another vehicle isn't plugged in. Once you plug in that second vehicle, the most either one of those vehicles can get is 32 amps. It reserves 8 amps if the vehicle's plugged in, even if it's not charging, in case that vehicle has a preconditioning scheduled or something like that. There's something with the software that if it completely shuts off the power to that vehicle, then it won't be able to wake it up. And when the vehicle wakes up, it won't be able to deliver it power. So the Grizzl-E reserves 8 amps, for the second vehicle. What I'm going to do now is pull my Lightning and my Rivian R1T into the garage, plug in one, make sure it gets the full 40 amps, then plug in the other, and we'll see what happens. All right, well, I have both vehicles in the garage now. What I'm going to do is plug in the Rivian first. We're going to take a look and see how much power it's drawing. Then we're going to hop out, plug in the Lightning, and then we're going to go back in the Rivian and see how much power it's getting at that point. And unfortunately, the Lightning doesn't show how much power it's drawing. Huge faux pas by Ford. Ford's got to add that in an OTA update at some point in the future. It's really missing from this vehicle. I love the Lightning, but as far as charging information, Ford really dropped the ball. It doesn't give you a lot of good information that a lot of people want with their charging, like how much power it's taking in. That should be easily viewed and displayed either in the app or in the vehicle or in both. But as it is, you don't get it. So we're going to rely on what the Rivian is getting and assume the balance is going to the Lightning. So let's plug the Rivian in now, and we'll take a look and see what it's drawing. Okay, let's hop in here. All right, 2, 3, 4, 5. Should go up to like 9 kilowatt. Let me turn off the fan. That's bothersome here. All right, yep. We're pulling 9 kilowatts. So it's delivering the full amount of power, the full 40 amps. The Rivian doesn't show you anything past the decimal point, and it seems like it almost rounds down. If it doesn't get 10 full kilowatt, it doesn't go up to 10. So I bet you we're pulling the 9.6 now that the Duo can deliver. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to hop out, plug in the Lightning, and then jump back in here, and we see where it goes down to. It should, if it's splitting the power in half, it should be like either 4 or 5 when we come back in. Let's check it out. All right, now let's see what the Rivian says it's pulling. Okay, 5 kilowatt. So yeah, it just about halved. It looks like it's giving the Rivian probably slightly more power than the Lightning. I wish there was a way we could check the Lightning, but as I said, Ford dropped the ball on that and does not give us this very important information. But, you know, the Duo seems to be working. It's splitting the power, and the Lightning's getting about half, and so is the Rivian. So that works. You know, it's splitting the power nicely. Let me go inside the Lightning just to make sure it says it's charging. I'm sure it is, or we wouldn't be getting this less power. Okay. Yep, charging. So that's all you get. They don't give you any information. You go in the charging over here, it just tells you about when it's going to finish charging. So, you know, I've said it twice here already. I'm going to say it a third time. I love the Lightning, but Ford's got to give us better information on charging in the future. They've got to do that in an OTA update for sure. The Grizzl-E Duo is not a smart charger. It doesn't come with an app. You can't monitor the vehicle's charging. United Chargers does have a smart charger. It's called the Grizzl-E Smart. It's actually up on the wall behind me here. We've reviewed that already. So if you're interested in a smart charger and you don't need the two connectors, take a look at that review. Now, we did find a problem with the Duo and contacted United Chargers, and they confirmed that it is a current issue that they're working on solving. The problem happens if you have scheduled departure time charging on your EV. Let me explain what that is. Now, pretty much every EV can do scheduled charging, meaning you can set it to charge at a certain time. You would do that most likely if you had time of use electricity plans, which allows you to pay less for your electricity if you charge your EV during off-peak hours. Many of these plans start at 10, 11 o'clock at night. So you'd come home at 6 o'clock, plug your EV in, and it wouldn't start charging right then. What happens is the vehicle doesn't ask for the electricity until the time you have it set at, so you pay less. But however, there's another feature that some electric vehicles have, not all, but some do, and that's scheduled departure time. Now, it's different from scheduled charging because with scheduled charging, you tell the car when you want it to start charging, at midnight, at 1 a.m., at 10 p.m., or whatever. But when you have scheduled departure time, you tell your EV what time you're leaving in the morning, and then the car figures out when it has to start charging in order to be 100% charged right before you're about to leave. Now, the problem with the Grizzl-E Duo is it doesn't work with scheduled departure time. For some reason in the software, when the vehicle calls for it to start charging, it flags an error and it won't charge the vehicle. Now, the Duo will work fine if you just set scheduled charging in your EV and say, okay, I want it to start charging at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or midnight or whatever, works just fine. But if you do use scheduled departure time and you allow your EV to figure out when it's going to start charging, the Duo won't work. Now, United Chargers is working on this software glitch, and they said they're going to have a solution to it soon. The only problem is if you buy the current version, you're not going to have that feature. It won't work, and since it's not a smart charger, United Chargers can't send out an OTA update, so it's not going to work in the future. Now, when they do get this ironed out, I will put a note in the description of this video that, you know, the versions they're selling now does work with scheduled departure time charging, but as it is right now, it doesn't work. So you have to understand that if you use that feature, if it's important to you, this probably isn't going to be the right unit for you to buy. Now, let's talk about some of the other aspects of the Duo. It has remote connector holsters. I talked about those earlier. They're called the Easy EV Plug. They're the same that all United chargers use. And I actually like them a lot because one of the things about these remote connector holsters that I like is you can locate them anywhere you want in the garage. You don't have to put it right next to the charger like I have here. You could put it on a side wall, maybe right where your charge port is. So you just grab it off the wall, plug your EV in, and when it's done, you just grab it and plug it in. You don't have to walk it over to a different wall. So that's good about remote connector holster. Another thing that I like about the Easy EV Plug is you notice it has a very wide tapered opening. And that's good because you don't have to be perfect when you plug it in. You can, let me take this off a little bit. You can just kind of like even miss and it will connect. You don't have to, some of these connector holsters, you have to be nearly perfect in order to get it to connect and hold. The opening is just the exact same size as the connector, so you have to be perfect. And in a dark garage, sometimes it's hard to get it right in. It could be frustrating, especially if you're carrying something with one hand. The Easy EV plug, I like this remote connector holster because it has such a wide taper opening. You don't have to be perfect and it'll still connect and hold. Now the body of the unit has a NEMA 4 enclosure, same as the Grizzl-E Classic and Grizzl-E Duo. I've reviewed both of those here and I love this enclosure. It's a really tough all aluminum. I mean, this thing is tough. It's perfect for outdoors. It can withstand blowing rain and wind with the NEMA 4 enclosure. I actually, when I reviewed the Grizzl-E Smart, I actually blasted it with a garden hose. I tried to get water to seep through the seal here and underneath where the cables come in, and I blasted it for like 5 minutes. Then we opened it up and there was no water intrusion. So this is really a good solid unit, particularly if you're using it outdoors in inclement weather areas. It really can withstand pretty much anything you throw at it. United Chargers even ran over their units, not the Duo, the Classic, with a variety of different vehicles, and saved me the hassle of having to do that here. But it's a tough unit. This is one of the toughest, strongest enclosures of any electric vehicle charging equipment. Now, let's talk about some of my, if you want to call them, complaints. The cable is unnecessarily thick and heavy, and it could make it sometimes difficult to manage when you're reeling it back in and looping it back up over the connector holster. So that's something that I think United Chargers can improve. The connector itself also, it passed our connector drop test, so it seems like it's made strongly. It doesn't have a good feel in your hand. It feels really plasticky. It doesn't have any rubberized grip or anything like that. And you're going to be grabbing this thing every day, multiple times sometimes. So I like when the connectors just have a good solid feel in your hand. This doesn't really feel like it's a good connector, and it's definitely not on the top of my list for connectors that I like as compared to, say, the ChargePoint Home Flex has a really good connector. The Wallbox Pulsar Plus, nice. It's like a rubberized grip. It doesn't feel cheap and plasticky like this kind of does. So those are really two of my major gripes with the Grizzl-E. But then let's talk about the price. It costs $799, which sounds like a lot, but it's not, because this replaces 2 chargers. So the only other comparable unit on the market right now that we've tested here is the Clipper Creek dual head unit, and that costs more than twice what the Grizzl-E Duo costs. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's a fantastic value, and that's going to be represented in our scoring when we rate it, particularly in the ChargerRater when we do our points-based, which, speaking of, it's time to score the Grizzl-E Duo. So first for that, we're going to take a look at the ChargerRater before we do my own personal thoughts on what my rating for the unit is. So let's hop over to the ChargerRater now and see how the Grizzl-E Duo does. Okay, first up, we're going to look at cost and value. Now, I did say that the Grizzl-E costs $799, but I am going to score this as if it's 2 units for $799, because you can charge 2 EVs with it. So I'm basically saying it costs $400 per unit, and for that, it's going to get 3 extra points in the cost and value category. As far as value, I have to say it's an excellent value. To be able to charge 2 EVs, dynamically share the power with 1 unit, and share one 40-amp circuit at $799, many 40-amp EVSE out there that are today that can just charge 1 vehicle cost $799. So for me, this is an excellent value, and it's going to finish up the cost and value category with a very high 20 points. Now let's take a look at power and weatherproofing. It's a 40-amp unit, so it's not going to get any extra points for that. Adjustable power, it does have adjustable power with a dip switch internal, so it's going to get 1 point for that. You get 2 points if you can adjust it internally and also through an app, but there's no app for the Grizzl-E Duo, so it's going to get 1 point. Weatherproof rating, it's a NEMA 4 rated unit, so it's going to get 2 extra points. This is not an Energy Star unit. Unlike the Grizzl-E Classic and Grizzl-E Smart, they're both Energy Star certified. This unit is not. Automatic restart, we did our automatic restart test where we shut off the circuit breaker, then turn it back on and see if it will automatically restart charging the EV, and it did do that. So it finishes up the power and weatherproof rating category with 19 points. Really good start for the Grizzl-E Duo. Now let's take a look at construction and durability. Connector holster, I'm going to give it 1 extra point because it's good. It's not an excellent connector holster, but in my opinion, it's above average, so it's going to get 1 point. Cable length, there's 2 24-foot cables, so it gets 2 points for that. The cable pliability, it's not going to get any points. I rate this to average, if not slightly below average. I'm not going to take 1 point off because it's not poor, but it definitely isn't going to get any extra points. This cable is manageable in very cold weather, but it certainly is not good in very cold weather. Robust construction, it's going to get 1 point for that. And removability, it's going to get an extra point because there is a security lock that allows easy locking and also removal from the unit. It has that security pin that's in the back. I like when we have that so we don't have to bust out screwdrivers and so forth to remove them from the wall. This, you just pull the cotter pin, pull that piece out, and you can pull it right off the wall. Super easy. Ease of installation, simple installation, so it's not going to lose any points for that. Finishes up the construction and durability category with 20 points. Really looking good scoring-wise for the Duo at this point. But now we're going to take a look at smart and non-smart. It is not a smart charger. It's not power share capable. Now, some people might say, oh, wait a minute, you just said earlier in the video it can dynamically share power between the 2 plugs. It can. But that's not what this power share capable category is about. This is about the charger being able to share power with multiple chargers of the same kind. So you can have, say, an apartment complex with 4 or 5 different chargers, and they all share one circuit, and they all communicate with each other. Now, this just has to communicate with itself and the 2 different cables it supplies. So it's not getting a point there for power share capable. Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant compatible? No, it's not. Does it have charging record data? No, it does not. Is it OCPP compliant? No, it is not. So what we're looking here is it's not getting any extra points, and it's just going to walk away with 15 base points for the smart and non-smart category. Now let's take a look at safety certified and warranty. Is it safety certified? Yes, it is. You don't get any extra points for that because it should be. You only lose points if it's not. Warranty, you get 1 point for every year warranty. United Chargers offers a 3-year warranty on the Grizzl-E Duo. So it's going to get 3 points and finish up the safety certified and warranty category with 18 points. That gives us a grand total on our ChargerRater of 92 points. Very good score for the Grizzl-E Duo. So that means it finishes up with a very good 4.6 stars out of 5 in our ChargerRater. So now I add my own personal thoughts because not everything can be quantified with points. I'm going to give the Duo a slightly lower score. I'm going to give it 4.4 stars out of 5, which is still a very good score, and it's going to finish up with 4.5 stars out of 5, the average between the ChargerRater score and my personal score. So why did I ding it and give it a little bit lower score than our ChargerRater? I can't help but let the thick cable and the fact that I don't love the connectors taint my scoring a little bit on this. There's no need for such a thick cable. If this was going to be used for commercial purposes out in parking lots and so forth, then I think this is the appropriate cable for it because this has a really thick outer rubberized jacket. This is going to hold up to anything, people running over it with their cars, any kind of abuse that you might see out in public. But for personal use, I find it a little difficult to manage to unravel it, plug in, then roll it back up. Some of these other thinner cables, I mean, like the Tesla wall connector cable here, this thin cable here is so much easier to manage. And this delivers 48 amps, even more amps than what the Grizzl-E does. So it's not a matter of, oh, we need this thick cable because it delivers more power. It's just, I think it's over-engineered, and that hurts the usability. And I also have to take into consideration the fact that there is a situation where the Grizzl-E Duo doesn't work. And that's if you have the scheduled departure time right now. So between the fact that the cable's a little unruly, I'm not in love with the connectors, the software isn't 100% fully baked, had to take a little bit off of that. So we're gonna finish up with 4.5 stars out of 5. Still, as I said, an excellent score. And that's really because it's a robust unit. It's got nice long cables. It's priced really well. $799 for a charger that can charge 2 EVs and share just one circuit. That's an excellent price. So I definitely recommend the Grizzl-E Duo if you have 2 EVs and, a 40 amp shared circuit is going to be enough for you. The only time you might have a little difficulty with sharing just 40 amps is if you're Tom Malogany and you have a Rivian R1T and a Ford F-150 Lightning, 2 EVs with huge battery packs. Splitting that power and only sending 20 amps to each vehicle, it may not be enough on days that you do a lot of long driving. But to counter that, you'd say, well, you don't always have to leave the next day with the battery 100% charged. If I just say drain both batteries and plug them in, and if the next day they're only up to 60% or 70% charged, that would still be more than enough for 99% of my daily, usage of an EV. So, you have to remember, you don't always have to leave at 100% charged. Most people only drive 40 or 50 miles a day. So, in that case, it would work. But there are outlying cases where splitting 40 amp circuit may not be enough for all families. Now let's take a quick look at my key hits and misses for the Grizzl-E Duo. For the hits, you can charge 2 EVs with just one charger. All you need is one 50 amp circuit and you can charge 2 EVs at up to 20 amps each at the same time. It has a very robust construction. All United Chargers Grizzl-E products have aluminum NEMA 4 enclosures that are tough as nails and can protect you from driving, wind, and snow, and they're great for mounting indoors and outdoors. It has an excellent price. At $799, a charger that can charge 2 EVs at once is really outstanding. When you compare it to the competition, it's literally half the price. All right, now let's take a look at the misses. The cable is just too thick and heavy. It's unnecessarily thick and heavy in my opinion. The connector kind of feels cheap. I like when a connector has a nice rubberized grip and feels good in your hand. You don't get that when you grab the Grizzl-E Duo's connector. It just feels like a plasticky, kind of cheaply made connector. Now, it didn't break in our drop test, so I can't knock it for that, but I'm not a huge fan of the Grizzl-E Duo's connector. The scheduled departure time software is incomplete. That's a big miss there. If you use scheduled departure time software, it will not work with the Grizzl-E Duo yet. Now, I know United Chargers is working on it, but it hasn't finished that yet, so that's definitely a miss there. All right, well, that's it for our review today. We hope you learned a little bit about the Grizzl-E Duo and I helped you make a decision on whether or not you want to purchase one or not. If you do want to purchase one, or a Grizzl-E Classic or a Grizzl-E Smart, I have links to those units in the description of this video. Hey, if this is your first time here at State of Charge, please don't forget, click that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming content. And as always, thanks for watching.